Welcome to the March 2nd Zoning Advisory Committee meeting.
Hello, everyone.
I haven't heard from John, so I don't know if he's going to be here. Have you heard from him? Okay, so our agenda tonight is discussion of the conversions of residential property and the duplexes. And John helped by sending us an excerpt of the zoning bylaws with those pages in it. Also, stone wall guidelines, I think this will be a preliminary discussion of what we can do about that. And then just a generalized discussion of objectives for the upcoming year. Hopefully, people might have new and fun ideas for zoning. And, we should also make sure to schedule the next few meetings in around everything else going on in town. Okay, so starting with the zoning that John sent us. So at the bottom of the first page of this PDF is the conversion of residential property. This is an uncharacteristically very short zoning bylaw. The conversion of any house for rental purposes to accommodate not more than 4 dwelling units may be undertaken in any zoning district except Industrial A or Industrial B district upon grant of a special permit by the Board of Appeals, provided that the exterior is not materially altered and provided that each dwelling unit so created contains a floor area of at least 600 square feet and 2 parking spaces shall be provided on site. So it's a pretty simple article. And my question really is there any interest in any changes to this article? Understanding the objective is really just to make it possible for affordability in this town. But, echoing what I've heard in previous public forums and so on, that there's some concern about, somebody buying up a bunch of properties and converting them to rental units. So, so not wanting that to be going on in a lot of places.
I'm sorry, I can't find this. It's in here somewhere?
210-125.
125.
Conversions.
84.
84.
Page 84 of
Is this-
the printed
So
version.
short
I know. It's 2 pages, so it's really,
Sorry, you have
Yeah.
that's quite all right.
Nice.
Now you found it, okay.
Even at very established.
If I may, so
Oh,
right up
nice.
front, it seems like
Like it.
2 parking spaces shall be provided on the site for each dwelling unit. Could that become a barrier for entry? Like
I would
that's-
think so.
Yeah. So
I would think so too. That was the first thing that
Right.
I was like,
Because 600 square feet is pretty small.
right.
right.
So, of course, the other side of that is that, that's what's preventing there being a lot of street parking going on, so.
I guess purely from an affordability perspective, if that's where we want to take the discussion, should we discuss, should this 2 still be enforced, or is there a way to reduce that to maybe 1 or something along those lines? Does seem appropriate.
At least relax it for certain zones instead of all. So if it's a completely residential, it doesn't have to be 2 parking spaces for each.
Change to parking requirement. Anyone else? Just general comments, thoughts?
I think 2 is excessive. I think you could change it to provided that all vehicles at the location are provided off-street parking. All vehicles that are being habitually garaged there.
But this would be a rental unit, so it will vary, it'll change.
True. But as a general rule, I'm not necessarily in favor of paving over,
I know.
8 parking spots for 4 single people living in a house.
change the parking requirement, one space or sufficient spaces. Off-street, okay?
Mary, was there any concern about this article? Was there someone that came to us on this? Where did this come from out
One of
of?
the articles that deals with rental properties, basically.
Right,
So it's among those that Tom Terry,
Okay.
highlighted to us. And I'm not saying that it does need any changes, I'm just saying that
okay.
it bears discussion. So, because this, as well as, the one we just put forward, accessory family dwelling unit, and the duplexes one, are the three that really deal with smaller units, other than single-family homes, so.
I seem to think we talked about this last year, didn't we?
We may have.
I'm not saying we shouldn't have, but I thought I remembered something about the owner of the property had to live in one of the units.
And this one,
Is that up, or is that a completely different thing that we're talking about?
this one doesn't have.
You're thinking of the accessory,
No, because we didn't do
Two.
that last year. We did that 2 and 3 years ago.
that's right. That's right, that's exactly
We didn't do it
right.
last year. I thought it was this one. And maybe it didn't get voted in town meeting. I don't know. Maybe I'm making it up.
Okay, I can check the work plan.
It's so hard to remember.
Just give us what was done last year.
Say after 40, your brain cells start going away.
I bring it up not because I think that should or shouldn't be a rule. If we did talk about it last year, I'd be interested in what we did.
Yep. We should always learn from what we've done before.
So, one other point that I noted was, this does not make a requirement for each unit to have its own bathroom.
I was wondering about that too. I don't know.
Or kitchen area, or,
Or kitchen area, you're right, or any of, exactly. I mean, is the implication that those would be a shared space?
I think it's part of the building code in order for it to be, that would be my guess.
Yeah, what's our terminology? Is it dwelling unit, or what does it say in there? Because I'm still looking up that other part.
4 dwelling units,
It says
yes.
dwelling units, but I
Dwelling
think,
units, yeah.
I don't think
What
there's any
defines a
rule that
dwelling
says
unit?
that you can't
Yeah,
have
so is
common-
there a definition of dwelling unit in the
There
zoning
must be
bylaws?
somewhere.
So,
Or
I
in this,
haven't looked at the definitions, but.
Let's
I
go
can say
look.
I was talking to town council,
yep,
and they basically said, in not so many words, that the determined dwelling units consist of a kitchen. They didn't say anything about a bathroom, but they are not considering dwelling units if they don't have a kitchen.
You can share a bathroom, but not a kitchen.
interesting.
That's bizarre.
So I don't find it in last year's town meeting notes. So, but we definitely talked about it. It's just that I don't think we put anything forward.
The definition in the zoning bylaws for dwelling unit, a room or group of rooms forming a habitable unit for one family with the facilities which are used or intended to be used for living, sleeping, cooking, and eating.
Oh, no showering.
Living. Little living.
Okay.
Okay.
But, I mean, could you define cooking as a heating pad and a microwave?
Yes, you could.
I mean, it could be very modest cooking.
I'm sure it gets up to the state level at that point, as to,
Right.
that constitutes a kitchen.
Yeah, but the definition that we have to work with is pretty vague.
So, correct, but there are certain requirements, and I don't know them off the top of my head, for rental units, that if you rent, you need to provide the renters with certain appliances.
Right, but is dwelling unit different from a rental unit?
Well, this section is specifically for rental dwelling units.
Okay.
So they would have to conform to state laws. I don't know, if they either need to provide a stove, or they need to provide a refrigerator, or one of the two, both of them, I don't remember which one.
So So it's mostly contained in the rental dwelling units concept is a bathroom and kitchen. You know, kitchen definitely, the bathroom.
So
But, you know, when it says living, I mean, you know,
So
the
the way that
needs of living, I mean.
The way that this came up today was with the Fairview Estates. The units that are used for on-site managers are not considered dwelling units.
Right,
Because they don't have kitchens.
right.
And they are potentially changing that at town meeting to make those dwelling units. There's issues with the Osmond unit count.
Right,
That
we discussed it last year at town meeting.
Yeah, I remember this.
Came up last year.
Right, but I'm saying, I don't know if they have bathrooms. But so that wasn't the distinction that town council was making, is that
It
they
was
said
kitchens.
they're not dwelling units because they don't have kitchens. They may have bathrooms, and maybe that's, that's why the point is moot on those, but they were making the distinction that it needs to have kitchens.
I think the assumption is that it has a bathroom.
Yeah, I agree. I don't think we need to make any changes based on that. It's not owner-occupied requirement, which I think is appropriate for this particular bylaw. It's really only is the parking requirement too much.
Right. I agree.
It may not have been too much one time in the past, but now it is.
Yeah,
You could
exactly.
use a scooter, a bicycle, you could walk.
So, this is just about conversion, but some of the things, again, it was, I was writing the notes down. It may have been Tom Terry was saying this, or it was some of the discussion that took place afterwards or in the more recent discussions on it with us. Another step in affordability, allowing more flexibility for house conversions or new construction of apartments, possibly fewer limits on the number of units per building, for instance. So right now, it does say up to 4. Now but this is just for conversion. I cannot quite picture any house that could be converted without substantially altering the exterior of the house into something with more than 4 units that would all have 600 square feet of space, at least. You know, I don't think that.
I agree with
really
you.
a need. Do you? Yeah, so, I don't know.
I just flipped somewhere else inadvertently, but there's a parking space reduction clause that says that if you want to reduce it, you can go get a special permit, provided that, wait a minute. They need to make a determination that provision for parking spaces proposed will be adequate for all parking needs.
Okay, requirement can be reduced by special permit. Okay.
Does that mean they need to get a special permit to convert and then a second special permit?
Right,
I
you do
would-
one
I would
hearing,
guess
you
yes.
get one hearing, 2 things.
Yep.
You can't do one here.
You do 3 things.
So it seems really odd that this section is so short, because many of the other things that we discussed in the past, accessory family dwelling unit and all those things, do have a requirement for separate ingress and egress. This does not have that. Yet it also says exterior should not be materially altered. How do you achieve that if you need to have 4 different entrances into the apartment home, because it's 4 units now? How do you do that without?
So
It could be
This-
one center entrance.
Yeah,
with doors
yes.
off of that.
I think,
like
I think,
flats in a, you know.
I think that the general idea, Sundar, is that if you had a large, older house that was appropriate to be split into 4 units, but surrounded by single-family houses, that wouldn't change the character of the neighborhood.
Okay.
That was,
And that seems to be
Probably
the
the
only
idea.
requirement
Yeah.
of this conversion
Okay.
bylaw, is that you're not making it look out of place.
It does require a grant of a special permit by Board of Appeals, so that
Yeah.
essentially could become the limiting factor as well,
It's true.
because that could be subjective.
But at the same time, it's almost always granted,
Okay.
you know, so.
do you think that Mr. Terry was looking for us to loosen this particular bylaw?
He specifically said, I'm not suggesting any specific change, just in general, would like you guys to look at changes
Right.
overall to make things more
So
affordable.
since
and accessible.
Windsor at Hopkinton came online though, I mean, we've just got a ton of apartments.
Yeah.
So maybe this is now kind of a moot point?
It may be, I don't think, I mean, there's always gonna be the situation of huge houses that might, you know,
Right.
might be economical to convert, you know, but typically in college towns. You know? I've certainly lived in my fair share of those types of apartments.
They tend to be more affordable too than
Yeah,
the new.
than new
Oh, yeah.
apartments,
Oh,
new
yeah.
luxury apartments, so, yeah.
But at least there's an apartment stock that wasn't here just a couple of years ago. I mean, that's between the Wood Partners project at Legacy plus this one. I mean, we've got a lot of apartments now.
Oh, yeah, we absolutely do. Okay, so I don't see any big changes that we can make to this one.
I mean, other than the parking,
Possibly the parking, but if they can get a waiver through a special permit.
If they're gonna go for a special permit anyway to alter the building, they can go in and get a reduction of parking spaces
okay.
at the same time.
I was just gonna,
Yeah,
parking is the only thing, but since it's gotta be a special permit anyway.
So I have just a question. I don't know if it will apply for the scenario because it says, this is applicable for every zone except industrial A and industrial B. But I can imagine there could be lower wage employees who would like, if there is affordable housing in industrial A, industrial B, maybe they take it up. And I don't even know if there are houses in industrial A or
I don't
industrial B.
either, I don't think there are. I don't think there are any
There's-
I
houses.
mean, these are
Well,
pre-existing
there-
homes.
Yeah, so
And probably
this is only
very
conversion
few.
of homes. So
Very
if it's
few.
not
Very
there-
few, and I would guess that we want to keep that zone for commercial,
Only.
because we want to make money out of the commercial.
No, I agree with that. That's why I thought
Yeah.
like if the law is conversion of any house, so if new houses cannot come in, so people can't exploit that rule,
Right.
even if we loosen it for industrial A and
Right.
industrial B. But if there is already existing house which is not being occupied, maybe we loosen the rules for that, maybe.
So the only thing I can think of is the concept of the work-live play zones, you know, so if we're doing that in industrial A or B, you know, then housing should be there, so.
Right,
But
I
I
don't think
still
this is
don't
the
think
year
it's
to fight for
conversion.
more housing. I don't think it is.
No.
But in the future, if we're going to have better quality of life designs for planning, then there has to be some residential with that
Yes.
in the future. That's the only thing.
In any case, that 210, 125 does not apply
Correct.
to introduction of.
Correct. Right.
Correct.
That's a brand new bylaw.
Okay, so I'm going to put that aside as not, you know, not currently needing, you know, major changes. I'm so surprised that right after duplexes is animal shelters. Just seems like very strange organization.
If you look at the numbering,
Yeah. Spearmint
section where it just kind of,
Throw everything in, okay. Yep, there you go. Okay, so duplexes. I am definitely not gonna read the entire duplex, which spans 2.5 pages. But essentially, it is talking about new construction. It is talking, about, I was very surprised by this. If you look under B4, that at least one unit of the duplex has to be set aside as permanently affordable and count toward the 10% statutory goal, which is amazing. And probably why we don't have many duplexes being constructed in new construction. So, I understand some of the other restrictions, there should be no more than one duplex per lot, not other, dwelling units on the same lot, that sort of thing. But, also under B2, it talks about the percentage of existing two-family dwelling units not being above 5% of the total. So, and that it doesn't, this gives a very specific restriction to the Board of Appeals. The Board of Appeals doesn't even have the opportunity to grant a special permit if we're above 5% here. I don't think we are above 5% for two-family dwellings.
So, Madam Chairman,
But,
are we looking at this again with an eye for improving
Yes.
this? Okay.
so, it's nice at the beginning, in the first paragraph, it talks about in order that a range of housing options affordable to all citizens be available in the town. So that was the intent of this article.
Got it.
I'm only aware of one duplex in town. I don't know about anybody else, but I'm only aware of one.
There's one right around the corner from me. And I'm the only one I'm aware of.
Yeah,
No, I can think of that.
okay. So there's a few. But this is just for new family, just for new construction, excuse me. And not about converting. I don't know if there's any opportunities within this one.
Is the term affordable defined as part of the bylaws?
Yeah, there is. John, do you want to give a brief description of how that works with the affordable?
So affordable is defined at the state level as a certain percentage of rent for those making 80% of the area median income. So there's certain rent tables out there from the state that say in the Boston, Somerville, Cambridge metro area, this is the median income for one person. So 80% of that would be this income, and people making that or less would pay X rent on a one family or one bedroom apartment. This much rent on a two bedroom apartment, that type of thing.
Regardless of the market valuation of the rent.
Yes.
In that situation, is the owner eating the cost, or how exactly, what incentivizes the owner to do that?
Well, in this case, the fact that they can do a duplex. So they'd be making rent off of
More than 5%.
the one market rate unit. And then they would still be making rent off of the affordable unit, just wouldn't be as much.
Okay.
So, I mean, depending on how much their
This is not
costs
the year
are,
to do
they can
that
still
either.
turn a profit, they just wouldn't be turning that much of a profit.
Okay.
So in other situations, this one's kind of different because it's basically one unit for one unit, essentially. But in, for example, Chapter 40B developments, you can do, you have to do 25% affordable. So in order to get the provisions of Chapter 40B, which are essentially don't have to conform to zoning in the town, you can do a multifamily development as long as you do 25% affordable. So you do, in a town that might not allow a certain density of units, you could do more than that density, make the income off of the market rate properties, and then you have 25% affordable.
Mary, you could loosen this up, but I don't think this is the year to do this either.
No. I mean, it wouldn't come around until 2021, but it's still.
But still, we're still choking right now.
Yeah.
I think one of the difficulties is finding affordable housing without creating more housing.
Yeah.
You know? And again, before John puts it in the minutes the second time, I am not proposing this. But if there was a rule that said the smaller houses in the center of town could not be knocked down, those would become a much more affordable home option in the center of town without creating more housing and more strain on other things that we have. But I'm not proposing that either. It seems to me that's the kind of thing that could get by town meeting to ensure more affordable housing without straining the schools and the roads. And I think that's palatable. Because I think what that would mean is you'd have to expand the historic district, and I think the neighborhood I live in already said loudly they don't want to do that because they want to sell their houses, even if someone wants to knock it down and put a bigger house up, so.
The other issue you have with that is kind of what's going on with 83 Main Street and potentially 76 Main Street, where it's demolition by neglect,
Mm-hmm.
and the problems that come along with that.
Okay.
But I think that's the place where we're stuck. One way to get more cheap housing is more small units. That puts strain on the other place where we're frustrated. We're kind of, our hands are tied, I think.
And the strain on the school system, of course, as you
And
said.
also it's police, fire, all the other things that get strained. Water.
Okay. I am going to put both of these on the bottom of our list. Because I think they always bear considering changes as things around here change. But I agree that, you know, there's not an appetite for it right now. There's nothing obvious in either one of these that is glaringly in need of change, like there was in the accessory family dwelling unit. And it'll be interesting to see what discussions take place at town meeting, so that we'll learn from too, so. Okay, good. And next one is stone walls. So I think I went through this last time, is that planning board has asked us to create some stone wall guidelines, and they are guidelines. I don't know where they would reside, but nonetheless, the planning department would figure that out, land use. And that is planning board has some authority over the stone walls alongside scenic roads. I think it's are they within the public way, or are they not within the public way, do you know?
They don't
Anyhow.
necessarily have to be in the
They
public
just
way.
have to be along the.
Okay, just along the okay.
Is there
So,
also something about stone walls just in the woods? Are those protected in some way or another as well?
So the planning board only has jurisdiction over stone walls within the public way, the right of way.
within the right of way on scenic roads, so.
Yes.
So that's usually, you know, within like, I don't know, 5 feet or so of the road, more or less.
25 feet off the center line, right? For the most part?
Depends on
The
where it
road
is.
away?
20? Okay.
20 on scenic roads.
But my suspicion is that if we were to create guidelines, it is something that some people, even who, you know, aren't under that jurisdiction of planning board, would be interested in some help.
Protection
You know,
of the existing stone walls.
Yeah, if they want to, you know, reshape their stone wall in the backyard of their house, and they want to maintain the historical character of it, these guidelines could possibly help. That's, you know, but they're specifically for the planning board, for the scenic road jurisdiction. So, the problem is that we say, in planning board, we say, if you need to remove a section for some, you know, egress for, you know, like putting an addition on or whatever, and then you're replacing the stone wall, that you replace it in the same way. Or if it has tumbled down, you know, that you just replace those stones and you don't like build it up more so. Or use stuff from a quarry, you know, you just use those stones. And obviously people take liberty with what that means to them, you know, so. So I think that if there's any input we can get from local historical societies, not just Hopkinton, but others in New England who all deal with the same kind of stone wall. There may be some guidelines out there that we can, you know,
So I just found this has a lot of teeth. In Massachusetts, whoever willfully, without right, pulls down or removes any portion of a stone wall, blah, 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 can be punished with a fine of not more than $10.
Do you have to put it back?
Dollars. I don't know.
I mean, doesn't it beg a basic question?
Build
So
on that.
if I wish to build a decorative stone wall, am I required to get permission from the town within my own I don't. So by the same token, pulling down something, I mean, yes,
No.
the goals are noble here.
oh, yeah, no, and there's still, evidently, there's a Massachusetts state law that
Victoria
that says
Lodge,
you're going to be fined, but you can.
The rest of it don't work, though.
You can pull it down on your property. So the planning board does have jurisdiction over things on scenic roads.
Sure.
In front of people's houses, so, because those are in the public way.
But after the act has been completed, a $10 fine is on.
No, the planning board jurisdiction is over and above that. There's, you know.
Okay.
Yeah. There's
But does that-
more than.
Got it.
Should we all take a turn and just research different towns?
Sure,
And,
let's.
and just come back the next meeting?
Yeah.
Whatever we
That's what I'm
get?
thinking.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because it is intriguing.
It is. And also, I figure, you know, we can take pictures of examples. This is a good example, this is a bad example.
Well, it's interesting too, because if you drive around Hopkinton scenic roads, the stone wall methodology varies
Oh, yeah.
drastically between this side of town and that side of town and over here and over there.
And you
in
know,
terms
the
of what they're
farmer
doing.
that may have lived on our property like, you know, several hundred years ago, did a bad job of piling the stone walls. Yeah, absolutely.
I guess my question was more basic in nature. When I buy a property which contains a historic stone wall, is there any guidelines I get from the town as a homeowner that this shall be preserved in this form? Because day one I could come and knock it down if,
At one point, the planning board was sending out, or had intended to send out, to residents who purchase properties on scenic roads saying these are the rules. I don't know whether
still
that
do.
ever happened.
We still do, regularly.
okay.
For scenic roads, but
scenic
not
roads.
for, I mean, I have some in the back of my property.
To expand on Ted's fine, the actual language of this section says, whoever willfully and without right pulls down or removes any portion of a stone wall or fence which is erected or maintained for the purpose of enclosing land. So if you have, if you have a wall on your property that's not intended to serve as the boundary or enclose your land, there's no protection for that wall.
But what if that was the original intent of it?
But that's not the purpose of the wall now. I think this is more to
So it
have
doesn't
people
say
not,
anything historical.
right,
That's not the goal.
correct.
Right, it's not even aesthetic in nature, it is
Yeah.
functional in nature.
Yeah.
I'm wondering, what's the point? I'm gonna put a fence, an electric fence, and all sorts of fancy fences, but not removing the stone fence.
No, it's just the charm.
But even the law has not been written in that
But a
regard.
big
No,
fancy
no.
house has more.
No, the
like, you know,
Massachusetts state law has,
old-fashioned
you know, has no law
Farmer's stone
protecting
wall, I
these
bet,
historic
right?
stone
Probably
walls. And
As is
we can only
evidenced
protect the ones that are on scenic
Plum
roads.
Street.
But the
Or up on
guidelines
Elizabeth.
could be used by homeowners who want to preserve them in other parts of their property. It could be used. I'm not saying it will be.
Okay.
It is primarily for the scenic road.
I feel it should stay there, and
okay.
which it should be
It's-
removed from the,
It's not there.
oh, it's not even there,
It's
oh,
not
okay,
there.
okay,
No,
got it, got
it's
it.
not anywhere else.
Okay.
I'm just saying that, you know, maybe somebody who's looking for that information would also find this useful.
Okay.
But, okay.
Well, Boxborough seems to have a law, and I'm trying to digest.
Okay.
I can't.
So that's your homework.
Ted's on Foxborough, we'll go pick other
That
towns.
and Airbnbs, so, yes,
Any public comment on this?
come on up.
So, I'm Craig Nation, 279 Wood Street. I've lost a couple fingernails doing stone walls along the way. Something I think the stone walls in New England are fascinating, and I think it's important to know about their history from, as you guys are researching, but look back at how these have been maintained and have they've gone up and down over the generations. I think Robert Thorenson is his name. He's written some good books on stone walls in New England, and he'll start from the beginning explaining how the Ice Age, the last Ice Age that came, brought these rocks from the Appalachian Mountains and dumped them here for us. So these rocks have been tumbling around New England for a long time, and originally farmers would clear their field and they'd put all their uncomposted trash on their property line, and then the next generation came along and all the stumps and stuff would be gone, and they had these piles of rocks. And what do we do with these? Well, we'll organize them a little bit, and that's why you see some near the houses are organized neater, and as it goes into the back lot, they sort of are in different conditions that some of them are not so attractive anymore. Sometimes they're not even recognizable as a wall. They're knocked over, trees fall over. And this, over the generations, they've been organized, they've been built up nice. In some places they've fallen down, and then, like me, I've fixed my walls along my property line. I don't know. I just think it's important to know that you might not want to make it not a no-touch thing, because for generations they've been built up and fall down and built up again. And again, near the houses, they're organized neater and things. So I'm not sure where you're going with the rule. I get it. I think it has some merit, but just be careful. I would hate to have it, so don't touch this. Well, why can't I touch it? It's mine. Why can't I fix it or make it look better?
I think thus far, it's been very loose at the planning board. It's just been like, well, just try to rebuild it the way it probably used to be. And so they're just asking for a little bit more than that, and I don't think we would want to go further than a little bit more than that. So, and kind of the ideas being, and again, this is from the planning board, that the general guidelines that have been given in the past verbally have been, just use the stones that are there. That's the one. And two, yeah, if it's all tumbled down, feel free to rebuild it if you want to.
It's just tough to reuse the stones that are there because, again, as you'll see if you read some
Mostly
history on them, they've been pillaged and robbed. A lot of them used to be 4-foot-high walls everywhere, and people have come along and found better uses for these rocks and moved some of the bigger ones here and there. Landscapers come steal them. Some theories are, why are they the height they are now? If there were all these rocks in New England, we knew there were plenty of rocks to make a huge wall. Well, people had trucks and they were conveniently out of height that they could just throw them in the back of the truck. And now the wall's a short wall.
Yeah.
Originally they were made of mules. I don't know, they're pretty neat. They're all over the place.
I know, they're great.
When you start doing some research on them, you'll start noticing them more.
I know, they're beautiful, and I love thinking
But one
about
other
them.
thing is, for generations, people didn't know what to do with them. They were just trash to people, and now here they are. And you'll find lots of cool relics of things, little coins and bottles. There's so many neat things that you'll find when you get into a wall and fix it, or remove it, or,
Well, thank you,
I don't know.
I appreciate it.
That's all.
Okay, that's great, thank you.
Just know the history about them before you make rules, that's all.
Definitely, I agree. Okay, so that's our homework,
Sure.
and, okay, so in terms of our objectives for the next year, okay. Can someone remind me, when do we have a turnover of new members? Is that September?
I think so.
Okay. Yeah, it's not right after town meeting, right? It's September,
No,
August.
but I don't think it's September. I
Yeah.
thought it was this summer.
It might be June 30th,
Yeah.
maybe. It might be June 30th.
Oh, okay, okay, so, all right,
I thought when we started this format that it was a September 1 start. that led up to town meeting, but then the change was, we have to keep meeting all year round because there's too much to do just to get to town meeting. But I thought it was a September 1st.
I think the terms end on June 30th, but I think we did all the board organization in September. I can check on that.
Yeah, double check. Okay. Because I think that it will affect what we want to, well, for instance, I don't want to have you do the training for us on the form-based zoning, probably until new members are here. So we wouldn't do it right at the end of a set of terms, you know. So, but everybody's gonna roll over, right? Everybody's gonna stay with us? So that's what I'm trying to think of proper timing for things,
The
yes.
website says our term is August 31st to August 28th. For Zach.
Okay.
Actually, John Catino's a little different. He's September 2nd, August 31st, but
But
That's-
isn't it a
that-
3-year
So
term?
they changed over the board tracking format, because that's not how it used to be, so they probably updated
Everybody's on a
that.
slightly different cycle.
So I would
so you're saying that might not be right?
I would say the start dates are probably not correct. The end dates are. August 31st is probably correct, but I will confirm that.
Okay.
And I know we have in the past sometimes been delayed by planning board not quite getting the next steps done, because they have to take some steps in the summer, and sometimes that doesn't happen in the summer, so, yeah. Okay, so, I would like to hear any ideas people have or have heard, talked about as potential areas for discussion, whether they're on our list or not. Anything?
Well, I mean, I'd like to try to explore something for South Street to try to better utilize some of the underutilized facilities there to create some kind of an economic development zone. And I'm not even sure what that looks like, other than it's not a WeWork type communal use thing, but almost more of a cooperative thing, to have a variety of different kind of businesses coming into. I mean, 80 South Street was kind of the original target. Now it looks like we might have a manufacturing facility in there, but that type of a building that's been sitting there underutilized, and try to create something to just get some more amenities onto that side of town.
Including recreation, I hope. Maybe?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, Ron, can you identify the properties that you feel that we could shape the zoning around that? Because
Sure. I
80
mean,
South
80
Street, 80 South Street was,
80 South Street was the perfect one.
yeah, it's a
to start
perfect,
with.
it's a perfect property to do transitional zoning, for sure. But the seller or the owner was not very receptive to doing anything for the longest time. Plus, we used the property
Indeed.
when this building was down.
Can I ask you what you mean by transitional zoning?
So, I made an offer on the property on behalf of my client, which was for independent senior living. Perfect transitional zoning, because you've got housing on one side and you've got commercial on the other side. And they just never responded to the offer.
Okay.
So that's, like, you can try, but if, nobody's receptive to it, then it doesn't go anywhere. So there's got to be some incentive involved with, doing those kinds of transitional zoning uses. Also, Mary, a hotel, in my mind, is a sort of a transitional use between commercial and residential. It's a low-traffic use, as long as it doesn't look like the Red Roof Inn in Southborough, which was housing all kinds of, you know, people that didn't have a house by the state. But today you can't build something that would be, you know, that works that way. Okay, thank you.
But how is that different than the housing overlay district that we currently have?
You mean the hotel overlay?
I mean, the hotel overlay. I mean, we currently have that in the zoning.
Right, right. Well, we have the hotel overlay district because we wanted hotels, but there's no appropriate site right now for a hotel. Believe it or not. I mean, those buildings are full. Where the hotel
Where the
overlay
overlay
district
is.
is. They're full, so you can't go and say, oh, well, we're just gonna turn this into a hotel. There's tenants paying rents.
I mean, there have been a number of hotel proposals brought to town hall that have been turned down, and those were cited in appropriate areas within the housing overlay district.
In the hotel
A
overlay.
hotel overlay district,
Well, who turned them down? I don't
town
know.
meeting. Finn Perry brought it forward.
When?
Oh, you're talking years ago that went through Zach.
It was 3 or 4 years ago.
I would guess longer. I was on Zach at that point. I would say it was longer ago than that, but they
Yeah.
had a whole mixed use development going down on Elmwood.
Right, it was
Elmwood
not
Park.
just a hotel. That wouldn't have made the project feasible for all the,
The only reason I bring that up is that there are parcels within the hotel overlay district that are suitable for a hotel.
but
If
they're
a
not
developer-
available though. Ron, they're not available.
Right now, they're fit.
They're filled, yeah.
I would ask Finn Perry about that, because
I was working for Finn Perry, I know, I was the listing agent for his property. He's filled it.
Okay,
So, Ron, you were going to,
I'll work
come up
on
with a
some
list of
additional
properties and,
Yeah, I mean,
specific addresses.
yeah, that would be helpful, and then we can go from there.
We voted at town meeting last year to allow recreational along South Street, right? Yeah. And I myself shudder at the idea of Apex, but the other day, just because I was curious, I stopped by the new athletic center on Route 9 in Wellesley, where that church used to be, that said we're still here forever and ever. That place is amazing. Has anyone stopped in there? It's got a huge pool, it's got 2 ice rinks.
Right, it's owned by Wellesley, though.
No, I'm just
The
saying,
project is owned by Wellesley.
that type of recreational use, oh, so the town owns it? It's
Yes,
got a corporate looking sponsor on the outside, maybe they're,
right, maybe they did
Selling
a
the
partnership
naming
of some sort, but no, it was a Wellesley,
oh, is that,
yeah.
Where is
does that suggest that it's not a profitable move for a private?
It's probably a not-for-profit.
No, but does that mean it's not likely to be a profitable type thing? Like, does that?
Oh, no. The town, well, my recollection is that the town went out of its way to make that deal happen because there was a need. They didn't have enough recreational space in the town. And they had teams and,
I bring it up to say, I wonder if there's a private person that might see, I don't know where the empty spots are on South Street. It seems to me that, unlike some other things I've heard, would have a high tax value because of the value of all the stuff inside of it. There could be some traffic as hockey games come in. But I don't know business. I don't know if that's only possible if Wellesley pays for it because they're not looking to make a profit, or if it is impossible. I don't know how to tell the people, hey, build a couple ice rinks here. I don't know how that works either.
you know.
so,
I will bring it up to say I was impressed. And whereas I was worried about recreational uses, because I think an Apex is a horrible idea on South Street, that seemed to me to be something.
We need to debate that.
That is the other end, right? So Apex is the other end of
Right.
multiple recreation centers coming into one. Like, having at least something come into town would be,
Would be good, yeah.
And space-wise, just the size of the lot and building, it seems to be similar to most of the lots. So I was struck by it and thought, hey, I like this thing. I can see this for South Street Vibes.
Well, yes, you're right. Last year's town meeting did vote to allow it by special permit in industrial A, so, which is the right place.
When you said Wellesley allowed that because there was a paucity of recreational space, do we have that same situation in
The
Hopkinton? or not?
demand, well, there's supposed to be a hockey and a museum on the east side of town here. As part of the proposal of Legacy Farms. I don't know, the hockey part of it may have fallen apart, but
I think they backed out of it.
yeah, I mean, it's money. These things cost a lot of money, and, you know, unless you have someone who really wants to finance it. it's-
Fair enough, but indoor recreation, I believe there is a demand.
Yeah, I mean, you know, there's probably a need for hockey here in town, but those things go on a cycle too. It's not always, it's a demographically based cycle. And so if you have a lot of kids, I mean, I just remember the skating rinks closed in my area after they were building for a number of years, and it just was a big box at the end of the day. So you have to look at, are you going to use this land for high-tech jobs, good jobs, or are you going to use this land for big box retail and recreation? I mean, I just, you know, I think that our town fathers had some smarts here way back when. And have we attracted people and companies that, you know, want to be here and take part of the educated workforce?
And I'm with you, that's my favorite use.
Yeah.
I just happen to see this and think that's, I think, gonna be.
Yeah, so
effective.
it's coming to me now, that it was a church, so the church doesn't pay taxes.
Right.
And so the town fathers there got this operator to come in, but I do believe it is a town.
It's owned by Wellesley.
I do believe it's owned by town, yeah.
It's pretty impressive,
Yeah.
whatever it is.
Oh, no, it's state of the art. It's state of the art, for sure.
It's really very cool.
It's
It's
stay
two
there.
rinks, it's an indoor soccer field, it's a huge pool, fitness center, it's really pretty amazing.
Well, the Boston, no, I should say, anyhow, I don't remember the name of it, but anyhow, the tennis club that they're building,
Mm-hmm.
you know, that's gone through most of the changes now. Did we vote on it? Yeah.
Been approved.
So,
Great.
so we approved it. And so, you know, now it's,
When will they
Two
start
facilities that
construction
come to
now?
mind are
but that's membership, you know, so.
two facilities that come to my mind are Four Kicks in Marlborough, and I think John Smith Soccer.
Yep.
Both of which, the advantage is you have a demographic all the way from very young kids who are playing soccer in winter all the time to adults who are now using that for cricket practice and midnight football, and places like John Smith and Four Kicks. There are Indians who go and play cricket there.
Yep.
Reserve a slot from 10 p.m. till midnight. It's AstroTurf. So that place is hardly closed. In the sense, yeah, it is closed from midnight to 8 a.m. or 9 a.m. in the morning, but there is so much regular use of that. So that hopefully can address, or this will go out of fashion and at some point it'll get mothballed. Because a lot of people I know do use those kind of facilities literally for, you know, playing soccer.
Yep.
Like 10 people go and rent that place, or for cricket. I mean, again, changing demographics, right?
Yes,
And
I think the cricket is fairly new for John Smith. In fact, John Smith was up for sale like a couple of years ago. I don't know
I think
if
it still is.
it still is, yeah. So
Right.
it being up for sale kind of means that it's tired, it needs to have reinvestment in it and
Right.
those kinds of things. And that's hard to do.
No, fair enough. The only point I'm trying to make is we are focused on the demand within our community, and I think it's a little bit more than that. My friends go to Uxbridge to play soccer. They go to some other town, Westboro or some place to play cricket, even though they live in either Ashland or Hopkinton. So it almost feels like build it and they will come kind of a thing. I'm not suggesting that is necessarily true of all places. But again, depending on how it is, Four Kicks is a classic example. People from multiple towns, not just Marlborough, Hopkinton, and Hudson come there. It's all the time packed with girls playing volleyball, like for entire day on Saturday and Sunday, and that's the kind of traffic you want there. almost like overused and overbooked all the time.
Yeah.
You definitely want that. I mean, that would be the play I would make.
I wonder though how much tax revenue that generates. Like, I don't know.
The value of the
Johnson's
building.
Dome is just AstroTurf on
Right.
ground. And when you value the stuff in the building, that's where we generate tax revenue. What struck me about the one in Wellesley is I gotta think an ice rink costs a fortune to make, and that there's value in the pipes that keep it cold in the pool. I think the least taxable part of that thing in Wellesley is probably the soccer field. My guess is Johnstone's bubble doesn't generate property tax value, is my guess. Yeah, it brings in people, but John
Oh, okay.
pockets that money, not
Okay.
Marlboro.
Okay.
And that's why I was seeing this rec as maybe a little different, because of the high-tech stuff to keep an ice rink in the pool going, and that might generate more tax
So-
revenue.
There's a facility in Northborough, it's right behind the Arrive Westboro building, it's called Teamworks.
Yes.
Familiar with that? So that's got soccer, I've never been in it, but it's got soccer, it's got an outdoor pool, it's got an outdoor climbing wall.
Right. It is like 4Kicks in Marlboro in that regard. Yeah.
They
I
also
don't know
have
if that's
summer
some-
camps and daycares and.
Right.
Exactly.
I don't know if that's something more in line what
Right.
I was
I'd be
talking-
interested in
what we were
asking
talking about.
them what they pay in taxes,
That's a good point.
because I think it's nice to find stuff that our town likes, but I think when we're thinking about zoning, we're also thinking about how do we generate revenue for the town? And I think that we can think of things people would like that generate no revenue. And then we've lost that land, which I think is what Rita's saying too.
Yeah, I
That's-
mean,
that's
once,
what-
once it's gone, it's gone. It's,
Right.
it'll take, you know, a generation to get it back again.
And I would imagine the soccer bubble is easier to take away than storage, which once it's there, it's never leaving, and it's not gonna generate.
Okay.
So I think,
Good point.
I think I'm with Rita.
Well,
We have
so-
to be
so the
careful
other
about
thing-
what we think about putting in those places.
Yeah, so the John Smith concept is more low end than what you were talking about in Wellesley. And if you look at the 80 South Street as an example, I mean, I think they were valuing that at like 5.5 million. And so if you tried to put like a John Smith concept into that, it just doesn't work. It, you know, financially, it doesn't generate enough revenue to justify the expense of that property. The property's already at a higher level. So,
Is there a reason why we have difficulty attracting places like Urban Air or something like that? Because the Urban Air trampoline park, like opened in Billingham, it's in the middle of nowhere.
Yes.
But half of Hopkinton, every time I go there, I see all.
it's a
all
very
of us
cheap,
are there.
cheap piece of land. That's the reason why.
Mary, I think at the beginning of this term, we were gonna look into, I think maybe it was you, Ron, that said that you thought there was a connection between profitability and land value. I think I missed that meeting and I asked about it because I saw it in the minutes, so. I
You're
don't
talking
know
about
what we're-
assessed values?
Yes, and that the profitability of a business enhances the assessed taxable value of a property.
The
And
town
I think we
assessor
said we
can
were looking
apply,
at it, we didn't.
the town assessor can apply
Right. Let
2
Ronnie
out of
answer this.
3 different assessment valuations to a particular property. It could be revenue generation, it could be fair market value, and there's a third one that escapes me.
Cost.
And
Replacement
it's,
cost.
the assessor can basically assess it any way that the assessor chooses to. But the amount of income that a building is generating is there. But a lot of these South Street buildings that have been vacant, the assessor applies an imputed as if this building were 70% occupied and values it at that rate. The only thing that vacant buildings don't generate for us are personal property,
Right.
all the equipment that's inside. So just because a building is vacant doesn't mean that we're not getting any revenue from it, because it's still being assessed at a pretty high rate,
I didn't know that. That's good to know.
unless you're the owner of that property sitting with them.
Maybe
Yeah, but there is a tie-in to revenue generated from the building and how that property is assessed.
I have one request for, I think this was besides the list of private roads, but No, I'm sorry. Just, I think it was related to that. I thought there was something else that I wanted to ask you for, but, no. No, nope, guess not, no. Okay. Fire sprinklers is something that, I'd like to take up relatively soon, because this is something that, we're suggesting to put to a place that is not a zoning bylaw, so it doesn't go through town meeting. But we definitely need to get the input from, the fire safety folks. But based on our meeting last time, those of you who were here, we did discuss it, and no, that wasn't last time, it was the time before, 2 times ago.
Right there.
Yes. We did discuss it, and just in general, and talked about having it subdivision regs and where it would go, and what kind of encouragement to add there for developers to consider.
What's the carrot
Yeah,
for
so,
this?
yeah. So the carrot being, when a development needs to have longer than normal roads and/or driveways, that this is something that they need to consider. So, but it's obviously not something that we can mandate or we want to mandate. It's just something we want them to consider. So we really need to think about how to make that wording encouraging, and people won't just dismiss it out of hand, you know?
Do we have any idea what it costs to do this residential sprinkler system?
We can find that
on a
out.
square foot basis, because it would really be helpful to understand what kind of a
Yeah.
carrot needs to be put in place.
Yeah, I just need to go back into the website that has all this, this information on it. It has really, really robust information, so, but
Did
I
we
will,
say
I'll get
that,
back to you.
given that this would be for new homes that were getting constructed,
Right.
potentially the cost would be, one, baked into the cost of the home, but because everything is already under construction, it may not be a,
Right, but
Huge
they
barrier.
probably should have some kind of a benchmark of what the cost per square foot is of the new home, so that you get an idea of what the carrot has to look like in order to get the developer to go in that direction. Because remember, we don't have the ability to say you absolutely have to do this.
right,
It's
right,
more of a carrot,
Yep,
incentive.
right. But we also had said that, again, we speculated that the developer could, in his brochure, say, this has this high-tech system as one of the attractions while selling the home. Not sure who's
Right,
going
but there's a lot of things for selling the home. I'm talking about, like, when this came up before the ZBA, a very specific, was the entrance of my street, actually, 2 little small houses that were replacing 2 little cottages, and it was 20 feet from the fire hydrant. Like, that didn't make any sense to me, because that's an unusually high expense for a small house,
Yeah.
so that didn't make any
True,
sense.
true.
But when we're talking about a big house, like on Pond Street or someplace like that, where you've got to go a long distance off the street where the fire hydrant is, yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
You're right.
Especially because now, what he was saying is, but the materials are so different today, they're so much more toxic when they burn than
Right.
they used to be.
Yeah.
That was crazy.
yeah, I'm kidding, definitely. All right. So, did anyone have any other ideas for us to add to our work plan or highlight?
I'd like to take up the idea of adjusting parking in industrial A and B to the type of use rather than the type of zoning. So different types of businesses might be able to have significantly less parking requirements and allowing them to better utilize the
That's smart. That is
And
definitely
I don't know
smart.
I don't know how to do that, but just make some adjustments. So right now, it's all parking by zoning as opposed to business type.
Right. So can someone volunteer to do a little research on that, where it's done in other municipalities, that sort of thing? So it is on our work plan, so, I'm just highlighting it.
I don't know if anybody has done that.
Yeah, they do that.
Well, so I know, like, in the shopping center world, most towns will look at, like, restaurants different from retail.
Right.
So that's one example. But when we're talking about, I'm not an industrial broker, but when we're talking about an industrial building where you have a bunch of people manufacturing software versus having a big manufacturing plant, a big piece of machinery that's taking up that space, then it's probably by person. Do you know what I mean? Parking by how many people, the occupancy. Does that make sense? So, going in that direction?
I can jump in on that. Cambridge does it significantly. They do it by very many uses. And they do it kind of like what you're explaining, but they do it as if it's this type of office use or this type of industrial use, it's then the ratio is determined by either employee or square footage. So if it's general office, it's one parking space for every 500 square feet. And if it's industrial, but it's high-tech industrial or something, pharmaceutical industrial, it's one space per this many employees or this many square feet. So they do it kind of differently depending on the use and the town.
And Cambridge is obviously doing that to reduce the number of parking required, hence the number of automobiles required, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
I mean, now that's how they've done it, but I believe they've always done it by that. They've just reduced the ratio.
Right. Now, does the city of Cambridge, do they also include like ideas about supplementary public transportation, like electric buses? Do they do that like as a carrot if you supply this and you can reduce it and all that kind of thing, or?
Not really.
No?
Not that I know of.
Could be a very exciting
I
conversation.
mean, they do, I believe, if I remember correctly, they do allow for reduction of parking if you're within a certain area of public transit. I think it's usually like if you're within a subway rather than a bus, but I don't know what the specifics are. And Cambridge is just one example. I'm sure there are many others.
Yeah. Good. All right. Who would like to look more into that? Any excited volunteers?
I'll work on it. I'll work on it too.
Okay,
Start gathering some
Yeah.
advice.
sounds good. Good, okay. I think that's good for tonight unless,
Just one more thing. I don't know if we already discussed it. There's something that last year Carol had brought up about just certain permits can be swapped between zones and stuff like that. That sounded like an interesting concept, but I don't think we looked into it.
yep.
Oh, selling development rights?
Yep,
Yeah, so
yeah, that's here someplace. Transfer of development rights, there you
the
go.
transfer.
Yes, that is here.
Could that be something we can, would it work?
Learn
for
more
Northampton?
about, I don't know if it would work, but,
They do it in Framingham, right?
yeah, so, yeah, I think we should look into it more. There's a lot of things that just require more research. They're not low-hanging fruit. Okay. We need to talk schedule. Get your calendars out. All right. We need to avoid town meeting and election and so on. And spring break, whenever that happens to be, I can't remember. That's in April sometime, right?
April
Starting April
20th.
20th.
Okay. Okay, so you want to meet in 2 weeks' time?
We do it on Thursday?
Oh, God. It's so confusing when we do it on Thursday.
I know, but I signed up for a class on Mondays because we were on Thursdays, and now I'm like.
No, but we were only on Thursdays for a very brief period of time. Oh, I'm sorry.
Well, if you're okay with me coming here late,
Yeah, what time can you join us?
between 7:15, 7:30?
We could start at 7:30. How would people feel about that?
Sure, on the 16th?
Yeah, on the 16th and some subsequent weeks until your class is over.
So you're saying 7:30 on the 16th?
16th. Yep.
Well, you don't need to change it for me, but I'm just telling you, if I show up here a little bit late, and I'll be
I like you being.
hungry, but, you know.
We like you being here, yeah.
So
Okay.
is it 7:30?
7:30 on the 16th. And also, the 30th? People good for the 30th?
Sure. Same, 7:30?
Yep, 7:30 as well. Okay, so. Oh, I don't know what the next planning board schedule is. Is it the 13th planning board?
It's the, of what? Of what?
April.
Yes.
Okay, because that would be our next meeting otherwise. So we're not going to meet on the April 6th. So we would meet on, nope, that's Patriots' Day, April 20th, so.
Do you want to move the 30th one to the 6th?
We
And
could.
then do the 6th and the 27th?
Okay, so we're not doing March 30th now?
Not doing March 30th. That's a great idea.
Oh, so March 30th got cancelled? Okay.
Well, just
That,
adjust
no, I
it to
think
the
that's a great
6th.
idea.
I'm sorry. I'm
Because
still-
then we could do it once every 3 weeks, since planning board moves around on us.
So March 30th did get cancelled, right?
So April 6th is the next one?
John has a question, hang on.
Yeah, that's actually my question. So I just put in the March 30th date. Is that not a
We
date
just
anymore?
bumped it
Okay, so
So
that's
we were
gonna
just
be
talking
when?
about bumping it to
1 week later.
Okay, so that's actually gonna be April.
Monday the 6th,
Monday the 6th, okay.
because planning board is not doing anything that week. And then we can't meet on the 20th, so we can meet, no, and we can't meet on the 27th because, oh, wait a minute. Planning board says possibly cancel for Know Your Vote, because Know Your Vote is that night.
I don't think they're canceling.
They're not canceling, okay.
What days will you vote?
I think Know Your Vote
27th.
got moved to the 28th or 29th.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Or they're still holding it and
And
Muriel might
planning
not
board
be
is
going to
just
the
gonna,
planning board
yeah,
meeting.
go ahead anyhow.
I think Gary Trendle agreed to go to Know Your Vote.
Yeah. Okay, so maybe that's what it was.
I think that's
So
what I heard.
all we have is April 6th so far, right?
No,
Yes,
March,
April
something about March
6th,
also.
16.
March 16th.
March 16th and April 6th. Yes, it looks like that is all we're gonna manage until,
March 16th and April 6th, okay.
town meeting is when?
May 4th.
Same day as all the AP exams for my kids.
Oh, May 4th is town meeting, is it?
May 4th, 5th, and 6th, yes.
What do you mean 5th and 6th?
May 4th, 5th, and 6th.
So Cinco de Mayo is gonna be
It
town
usually
meeting.
goes 3 days.
Does it?
Be perfect
But the last time I attended was that special meeting, that's why I get
Oh,
I think we'll have as many articles as we had last year?
I don't know.
Total?
Yeah.
There's not an insignificant amount of articles.
Not an insignificant amount. I love your non-committal.
confused. Oh, on Cinco de Mayo.
Foreshadowing clue.
Okay, so generally, a good idea to put it down from 7 to 11 PM for 3 days running.
Okay.
And then we're good.
We can get people to move faster by telling them it's Cinco de Mayo, we have to.
Serve margaritas. Okay, so we can't meet then. When is, we can meet on town meeting, yeah, so, hang on. Trying to get this in here properly. All right, okay. So planning board is meeting on May 11th, so we can meet the 18th. May 18th. Are you still in your class at that point? Or can we go back to 7?
It's all on you, Ria.
I don't know, May 18th, hang on.
So that's roughly a 6-week gap, or 5 week?
5-week gap?
So you want to do it at 7 o'clock on May 18th? Okay.
That way I can get to bed earlier.
Yeah, no,
Okay.
in general, we
May
haven't gone
18th.
to 9 o'clock except for in the very beginning, so, I mean,
Okay. Is that good for everybody?
Yep.
That gets us through town meeting and... Okay.
So 7 on the 18th, is that what we decided?
7 o'clock.
Okay.
It's just 7:30 for the next 2 meetings on March 16th in 2 weeks, and 3 weeks after that, April 6th. And then we go for five weeks. But it'll seem like we're meeting because we'll be at town meeting together, so.
right.
Yeah, that'll wear us out for a couple of weeks.
Exactly. All right. Okay, so we need to approve the minutes. Everyone have a chance to review those? Any comments? Okay. I'll entertain a motion to approve.
Seconded.
Okay. And all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions? Okay. And I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Okay. I was like, oh, what is it?
Just following.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions? Okay, good. Thank you very much.
What's that?
Don't be expecting.
Are we off here?
No, really.
We're off?